Welcome to Heaping Spoonful, a twice-monthly conversation with restaurateurs, chefs, growers, and others who have helped generate the legends associated with eateries across the Mid-South. The team at Benny Keith is proud to sponsor this adventure with the goal of preserving the stories that have helped cultivate an amazing food scene across the Mid-South. So kick back and enjoy a Heaping Spoonful.
Greetings, everybody out there in podcast land, and welcome to Heaping Spoonful. I'm your host, Kelly Bass, and I really appreciate Benny Keith Foods giving me the chance to visit with many of the top chefs and restaurateurs across the Mid-South on these podcasts. I have been a foodie long before that term was even invented, and for the better part of 30 years, I had the privilege of writing dining reviews for a couple of Little Rock newspapers and then magazines, long before the internet gave everyone a chance to be a food critic. But I will say, and I mean this sincerely, I have loved talking about food more than writing about it. Today on Heaping Spoonful, our guest is Sam Walker. He's the executive chef at Theo's, one of the top restaurants in Fayetteville, Arkansas. So, hey, welcome, Sam.
Hey, Kelly. I appreciate you having me on. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, well, thanks for doing it. I really do appreciate your time. Before we talk about what you're doing at Theo's and dig into some of the delectable items on your menu, let me welcome you back to Arkansas. We're recording this episode of Heaping Spoonful on Halloween Day 2022, and because it's audio only, I hate it for you listeners. I've got the coolest gorilla suit on right now that you'd ever believe. I had to kind of pull the head back so I could talk, but it's pretty awesome costume, if I do say so myself. But, you know, check me out on Facebook and you'll see my look. Okay, back to the broadcast. So if LinkedIn can be trusted, you've been at Theo's and back in Arkansas for about 7 months. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, my wife and I have been back around 7 months now.
Cool. Well, based on your earliest experiences in the restaurant business, it appears you are from Central Arkansas and you went to Baptist Prep High School, which hasn't always been called Baptist Prep, but was Arkansas Baptist before that, right?
That's correct. Yeah, I graduated from Arkansas Baptist High School, now called Baptist Prep Academy, I believe. I think that's correct. But my mother was a teacher out there, so I had the privilege of going out there, graduating back in 2008, a little while ago. So
yeah, cool. Well, I will tell you, and I mentioned this before we started recording, to say you worked your way up from the bottom or near the bottom of the food chain in the restaurant business is really no exaggeration. But I love it. Your story is one of the, your story is one of that tells the value and ultimate rewards of, I'm only assuming, doing a good job, learning along the way, and therefore getting a series of new opportunities. So you were a clerk in the deli at Fresh Market, where I get their daily emails and I roll in there and pick up some good steaks and some other stuff. It's a cool place. It's a really nice grocery store in West Little Rock. And then you served as a salads guy at Greenleaf Grill. And then your first cooking job was at Beef O'Brady's, which was a really cool sports bar in Maumelle. I used to be a partner in a liquor store called Boulevard Wine and Spirits, and I would make my way down to Beef O'Brady's for a little Sunday NFL action. And now it's closed. But I have to read this out. I have to read this directly from your LinkedIn description of that job, which, again, I'm hoping and expecting that many of our listeners have worked in the restaurant business. And here's what you said about that. I typically worked night shifts, working the grill, fryers, and expo stations. I made sure the food went out on time and to standard. I also made sure the restaurant was closed correctly. So that's some pretty serious glamour and glory right there.
Yeah, that's the good old days, right? Yeah, it's been a heck of a ride. I'll say that. I think I would consider my first real kitchen job to be Scott McGee gave me a chance over at Zaza's to kind of get my foot in the door and see what that was like. And I was working under guys like Ben Brainerd. I mean, just some really, really great guys in the business in Arkansas, and they taught me a ton. I kind of wish that I knew now how valuable that was. I think I was a little too young to appreciate what kind of mentors I had around me at the time. But yeah, coming up and looking back on it, I did have a lot of good experiences just to kind of grind it out and figure out what the job is all about.
Sure. Well, I'll tell you, Ben Brainerd was the last guest on Heaping Spoonful because he has Big Bad Breakfast now. And he basically said the same thing. He said, I quit a pretty lucrative commercial real estate job to go work at Boulevard Bread with Scott, and just said, teach me. And he said, he's just like been my mentor. And that family tree, and it's like there's several, between the oldest days of Jock and Suzanne's, but then Capitol Hotel with Lee Richardson, and now with Scott and, and John and Ben and others there. And you're part of that family tree, which is really, really cool.
Well, I can only hope to, someday kind of have the same kind of impact that those guys have had. But you look at the whole, I've looked at your podcast list, and then, look at the Matt Bells, and just the list goes on and on of people that I've looked up to for a long time in the Arkansas food scene. So it's great to be back here, and so hopefully kind of make a mark someday down the line. But,
sure. And, one of these days I'm going to be, assuming they keep me around, I'll be doing a podcast and somebody will say, yeah, I worked under Sam Walker at Theo's and I learned a lot from that guy. So that's kind of how everybody passes it along, I think. So did I see that while you were at Beef O'Brady's, you were also working at Grumpy's too?
That is correct.
Yeah.
I was bouncing around a lot that time period. I mean, you look at Beef O'Brady's, I get done there, I go work the night shift over at Grumpy's, and then I don't think I had any rhyme or reason at that point. I was just working to work, probably make sure I could afford my bar tabs at that point in time in my life.
Sure. You're not the only one who's done that. So, work ethic was not ever really looks like an issue for as much as you were working. And then you went off to work at Tzatziki's. And one of my favorite podcasts of all the 70 plus we've done was with Tommy Jake and Jim Keat, famed Arkansas restaurateurs, and those guys still got it super going on, besides Petit and Keat and besides Tzatziki's, they've put some money behind some good people like Count Porcula and some others like that. So, absolutely. And then you went to the Arkansas Heart Hospital, which, I think your average person doesn't think about a hospital having good food, but Lord knows that I've had food from chefs at Heart Hospital in St. Vincent that is fabulous. And I remember it as what was the guy's name? Was it Cody or Corey? That was the guy who was the big ramen guy.
Yeah, Chef Kobe Smith. Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
He's a huge mentor to me. That's my brother in Arkansas. He really pushed me to. I guess push myself and get down to South Florida and take a risk and get outside the box. And it was everything that I was able to accomplish. I do attribute a lot of that success to just that guy pushing me to do better.
Yeah, and that's great. And again, people would roll out to the Heart Hospital to eat the ramen, which I think he was on Fridays or something, but it was super good.
Monday, 3 times a week, yeah.
3 times a week, yeah. So, again, Beef O'Brady's, Grumpy's too, Tzatziki's, all venerable and successful places. They're in strip centers, which is none too sexy in the world of restaurant ambiance, but hey, I went to all of them too and still go to Tzatziki's. And then in November of 2017, you left your home state to go to Florida. And was that something that he helped set up for you, or did you just go down there without a job and find one? Tell us about that.
I met my then girlfriend, now wife, in that same kind of window of time. And then she's from South Africa. So with her visa, she was always coming up and working up north somewhere, then going back down to South Florida. And that was just kind of the natural progression there. So, that was basically hey, we can stay together and keep this thing going. You just have to come down to South Florida. So, what the hell? Why not?
Yeah, there's worse places she could have tried to get you to go than that, for sure. And,
certainly.
And you went to work as a line cook at 1000 North in Jupiter, Florida, which I loved. On its website, it is calls itself one of South Florida's premier waterfront restaurants. And man, that must have been, again, nothing against any place that you'd ever worked before, But I looked, there's like 4 different dining areas, all with the same menu. I mean, it just looks, I mean, the menu was just killer. Did you walk in there and go, oh, what the hell am I doing here? Or did you just jump in and figure it out as you went?
That's probably one of the coolest stories from my time in South Florida was how that all panned out with that first job. And that was, I came down, I had an interview lined up. And honest to God, Kelly, I thought I was going to get down there and end up working at Chili's or something. Just based on not knowing anybody, not knowing what to do. And there'd be nothing wrong with that. But I sat down with Lee Morris. He was the executive chef of 1000 North, which they were still building at the time. And that we were sitting down in Lincoln Culinary Institute. It was an abandoned culinary school. And he basically told me, hey, Sam, we're still doing the test kitchen work. We're building a menu, and I need a dishwasher. And if you're willing to come in here and wash dishes and help us do some prep and get mise en place together, then I'll give you a spot cooking. So I took it.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, and in the menu, the dinner menu I looked at, I mean, of course, obviously we're in Jupiter, Florida, but I mean, there's not a whole lot in the world I love more than she crab soup. I've had about the best I've ever had was at Grand Central Station in New York. Roasted oysters, grilled octopus, towers that included oysters, shrimp, colossal crab meat and lobsters, and Angus and prime steaks, not to mention rack of lamb, prime rib, ahi tuna, Dover sole. Man, I mean, that is as good as it gets. So I guess you started off doing, and then you got to be a line cook and started cooking all that stuff. Yeah, I mean,
it's quite the progression, going from what I was doing in Arkansas and just, I was putting forth effort, but when I got down there, I saw like, oh wow, like, you're really going to have to step it up. And a lot of people are hungry to get the positions that you're getting into. And so, yeah, I remember too, with the seafood, it's the first time I've used power tools. We would take Dremels and open stone crab claws to make kind of lollipops on the plate of these beautiful stone crabs. And it was interesting. It was a big learning experience.
Yeah, that sounds fabulous. And again, I wouldn't call it baptism by fire, but I mean, you learned your way along. And so you were there for 7 months, and then you go to Calaveras Cantina as executive sous chef and then executive chef. And again, I did a lot of website looking around, and I love the description. Mexico's distinctive flavors and beautiful culture have inspired us to create more truly unique and inventive dishes than you've ever had before. To that end, we proudly present Calaveras Cantina, where creating sexy Mexican food is our devotion. So you had to get in there and sexy it up a little bit.
Somebody's got to do it, Kelly. That job, honestly, that was the most challenging to me, just because I was not used to. It was my first management position.
Right.
And my buddy I met at 1000 North had actually been hired as the executive chef within that time frame, and he pulled me on. I was incredibly green to, anything management related in the kitchen. So it was really an opportunity to figure out how to, be empathetic, things like that, things you don't think about.
Sure.
When you're just cooking food. So there's a whole different side of it that I had to figure out, and it was a great spot to do it at.
Yeah, and then you just kept getting more opportunities in South Florida. So chef de cuisine at Voodoo Bayou and Palm Beach Gardens, sous chef at Topside at the Beacon back in Jupiter, sous chef at La Bilboquet?
La Bilboquet, yeah.
Yeah. Got it right. I was going to ask you before we started how to say it, but I forgot. In West Palm Beach, which I've got a friend who lives in I've been to Palm Beach. It is a different sort of place. It's not Little Rock, Arkansas, or Fayetteville, Arkansas. That's for sure. Yeah. In order, those are a Southern Cajun kitchen, a place that serves a dynamic Basque-style tapas menu, and a place known simply as Bilbo that now has multiple locations. And again, to quote, because I'm a website reader, the consistent thread, the same beloved cocktails, the classic comfort dishes, including the owner's own Cajun chicken recipe, the jovial service, and inimitable Euro vibe. So wow times 3. Can you talk about, did you follow somebody of those, or how did those 3 opportunities pop up for you?
So what happened was with Voodoo Bayou, that was it's the same owners as Calaveras.
Okay.
They're incredibly successful, very passionate about what they do. They're opening multiple locations around South Florida currently. So I was able to move over there, kind of help them open that. I ended up doing 3 restaurant openings within like a 4-year span.
Wow.
Which was a lot. Yeah, restaurant openings are no joke. So it was that was, as far as trial by fire goes, that was kind of that same process with opening all of those. But once I was at Voodoo Bayou, the same consultant, his name is Stephen Esparino, he was on the 1000 North project. He was also on that project in Jupiter where Beacon was.
Right.
So he reached out and then kind of gave me an opportunity to come back there and work with him again.
And then Bilbo.
Yeah, Le Bivoquet. Again, it's kind of like Arkansas, where it's a small world. And once you're in there, once you kind of hook up some guys and they come into your restaurants, you go into theirs, and it was just kind of one of those word of mouth things where there was an opportunity there, and it was a step up from what I was doing at the time, I felt like. So it was just another chance to grow.
Well, it's nice to be wanted, to be honest with you. I mean, that speaks highly of the reputation you developed, and people saw, that you had a bright future. So, hey, well, listen, we're going to take a short break here. I appreciate everybody listening to this episode of Heaping Spoonful. We'll be right back in just a bit with Sam Walker, executive chef at Theo's in Fayetteville, Arkansas.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of Heaping Spoonful. We at Benny Keith Foods enjoy talking about the food scene almost as much as we enjoy providing the top quality ingredients that help restaurateurs and chefs across the Mid-South create their magic. Now let's dive even deeper into the culinary world with your host, Kelly Bass.
Welcome back to Heaping Spoonful as we continue our conversation with Sam Walker. So after 4.5 years in Florida, you came back home to Arkansas to Theo's. So tell us about that change and the decision to come back to Arkansas. And even though the scene is bustling in Northwest Arkansas, it must still feel a little bit sleepy compared to South Florida.
Yeah, that's a decent way to put that. It's a different world. I think the pace is a little bit different in Arkansas, but it's great to be home. We were looking for an opportunity to get back for a while, honestly. And, the opportunities in Florida just kind of kept coming up, and we could have done that for a long time, but we wanted to get back. We're all getting older. My family's getting older, and the older I get, the more important, time with family, things like that are. So
Sure. Had you, when did you and your girlfriend become your wife? Did that happen while you were in Florida?
Yeah, I was working at Calaveras at that time.
Okay. So and, her being from South Africa, all of a sudden she's an American citizen because she married an American.
That's correct. Yeah, she's learning the ways of being an Arkansan right now. So, how to call the hogs and all that.
That's great. I just got back today from Atlanta, where one of my lifelong friends teaches architecture at Georgia Tech, and we went to the Arkansas-Auburn game, so I'm high on the hogs for sure.
Yeah,
That's great. Well, since I've recited website verbiage about many of your other stops, I feel compelled to do the same with Theo's, which describes itself as, quote, an upscale dining room, bar, and lounge serving contemporary American cuisine, classic cocktails reimagined, and an award-winning wine list. Does that sound like a fair description? I guess you didn't write that verbiage, but does that sound about right?
I did not write it, but it is. I would say that's accurate. Yeah, yeah. And it kind of to backtrack slightly. to answer your earlier question, there was actually a time, I think it was 2 to 3 years ago, that I had interviewed for a sous chef position at Theo's.
Okay.
With then at the time executive chef Elliot Hunt, who was the chef owner of Atlas here in Fayetteville.
Yeah.
Really great guy. He does a great job. Incredible chef. And had the pleasure of meeting him and his team. And at that point in time, the timing wasn't correct. But when we ended up moving here, he had called me and said, "Hey, there's a spot open if you're interested." So it kind of came full circle.
Yeah, that's cool. And remind me how long Theo's has been open.
It's been a long time. It's I know it's been at least 15 years.
Okay, cool.
And that number might be 17, Kelly. Don't quote me on that.
I will not. Obviously, that's a bit of research I didn't do.
It's been around for a long time, though. They've built a great name for themselves here, kind of a staple in Fayetteville, Arkansas. So I'm doing my best to kind of continue that trend and carry on the traditions and hopefully create some new ones. So.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're, again, after doing this many interviews with chefs, a lot of times they're like, I'm just going to come in and keep it going like it's going, and then I'll figure out my ways to put my little, emphasis here and flair here. But I will tell you that looking at the menu, I didn't just say wow, I said double wow. I love the focus on seafood with the small plates and also the main plates. I love a double cut pork chop. You don't mess around with your steak. You got Creekstone Farms, Black Angus, filet and ribeye. Talk a little bit about what the top sellers on your menu are and kind of what differentiates some of those dishes from the things at other restaurants.
Well, you see a lot of steaks go out. I think people come here kind of for special occasions, and you'll see people wanting to come in and spend a little extra money to get a nice steak. That's what people look for at a place like this, but that's certainly not all that we do. And I'm still trying to figure out. It's a little bit of trial and error here to see what sticks. I'm having to figure out the demographic and figure out what works here, and eventually would like to move into, just like you said, with the seafood. That's something a lot of people obviously enjoy eating around here, but I do want to eventually focus more on kind of what's more attainable in the state of Arkansas, whether it's trout or things that are a little bit more local. So I'm still trying to figure that out and figure out what that looks like, but it's been a fun process thus far.
Good. Do you feel the owners going to give you a little bit of leeway to kind of do things your way? I mean, I'm guessing they wouldn't have hired you if they didn't think you knew what you were doing and would be able to put your thumbprint on it.
Well, that's a huge part of it. I think anybody's success at any place, with the owners, Todd and Marty Martin, Jeff Gabbard, he's the vice president of the company. They have trusted me with pretty much everything so far. They've been an absolute delight to work with, and they're letting me kind of do my thing, but I'm also going to them. They've been Jeff's been at the company forever, so I really lean on him to tell me kind of what the different periods have looked like and where he's seen success, and to kind of figure out how I'm gonna map this out for myself.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, anytime I'm looking at a menu, and I've said this before, my least favorite thing is to go to a restaurant and look over a menu and say, well, nothing really appeals that much, but I guess I'm going to settle for that. And this menu is like, oh my God, I want all these things, because I love having a tough choice. But I will tell you that when my wife Ashley and I are coming to Theo's, and which hopefully will be soon, we're going to do the chef tastings for two with the wine pairings, of course. I love that option, and I think the price is actually very, very reasonable on that. Is that something that many people choose?
You do see that fairly often. Maybe not as often as, I think that also depends on the time of the year,
Yeah.
Kind of when people are in town and whether it's football season or whatever that looks like. But you do see it fairly often, and it's a cool experience for me to get with the bar manager and, figure out what we want to send out and make it you really want to make it a memorable experience for whoever comes in, but
right,
especially with those dinners.
So you basically, I say, bring it on, and then you whip up what you're going to whip up, and it comes to my table. I mean, it's not like it's not like a fixed price menu where I'm choosing courses. It's just you're just bringing out the things that you have to make, and I guess,
sure.
Yeah, which I love. I've gotten to do. Yeah, no, I've had the chance to do that before. As a restaurant reviewer, I've had some chef friends who just said, "Let me just cook for you," and I'm like, "Please, just cook for me." And
Sure.
It's always been a really pleasurable experience for sure. And I know we talked a little bit beforehand about your bar program, and if we could have worked the technology out, we might have had your bar manager on. But I'm telling you, the wine and cocktail program and your commitment to local beers is super. And when I say local, I don't just mean Arkansas beers. I mean Northwest Arkansas beers. But as I said about your dinner menu, I'm impressed with the breadth and depth of the drink menu. I can't think of many, if any, places in Arkansas where by the glass I can choose from 7 whites, a rosé, 3 bubblies, and 10 reds. And then I just only counted the red bottle choices, and there's 45 of them. So I am sure that wine fans love Theo's.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very extensive program that they've put together. Something that we all take a lot of pride in. And I was talking to our bar manager recently, kind of talking about the menu he's put together, and a word that we've been using a lot lately is just approachable. Whether it's the food, we want to elevate things, but also make it approachable. We're not trying to put something on a plate that people are afraid to eat or it's not enticing. Same thing with the bar program, whether it's
right.
Price points or just giving a wide variety of options. That is very important to all of us here.
Yeah, and again, I love wine, and I could just exist on the wine menu, but you got a ton of scotches, bourbons, tequilas, rums. I really like a good dark rum, so I couldn't even count high enough to count all of those. So back to food, we haven't gotten to the dessert portion yet. I don't know if I saw dessert on the website menu, but I'm sure you got it.
We do. I've got our pastry chef, Al Gabbard. She's been working with us for the last couple of months on really kind of trying to revamp that and see what that looks like. It's definitely not my specialty, but I'd like to have my input and kind of, give her some creative freedom, though. I think that's important as well.
Sure.
And she's been doing a great job with it. We've got a flourless chocolate cake just to give that chocolate option. We've been putting a cobbler on. I actually went and ate with my wife at the War Eagle Mill one day.
Know it well.
When we had off together, and it was I had a pecan cobbler there, and I texted Al while we were eating and said, I really want to get back to just these very simple, traditional, Southern, in my opinion, delicacies of preparation. We can dress it up, but I really love that simplistic approach to food and especially pastries.
Yeah, it sounds great, and it's good you got a good pastry chef to do that stuff for you. So
Sure.
You also have a very appealing happy hour with $6 cocktails, $5 wine and wells, and draft beer, and some tasty discounted bites that are actually not just bites; they're multiple bites. You all have a decent happy hour crowd generally?
We have a great happy hour crowd. That's one of those things since I've been here that's been incredibly consistent. Is how many people come in to enjoy the patio, enjoy the weather. It's great pricing, very competitive with the market around here. So it's something we see a lot of success in, and we're very proud of.
Yeah, well, it's nice to, again, for the after-work crowd that may not be able to stick around for dinner, but you still get some good business through there in the late afternoon, early evening hours. So that's really, really cool. So like I said, every time I do one of these, I was like, I got to get in my car right now and drive to Fayetteville.
Yeah.
But
the restaurant itself, I will say this with Theo, it's interesting because we have two sides to the restaurant. You have the lounge patio, and then you have our dining room, which is white tablecloth kind of service. So from the culinary perspective, you try to figure out how to, how to approach both sides and kind of have that very casual atmosphere, but also have that elegant, elevated service on the other side. It's a unique balance, I think.
Yeah, it is, but it's good because you can develop. They're not unique audiences. I'm sure you got crossovers, but still, it has more appeal to more people when you have something that's diverse like that. That's really, really cool. Well, thanks, Sam, for being my guest today on Heaping Spoonful. Good luck in all you are doing at Theo's, and I thank also all of you who are listening to the podcast today. We post new episodes on the first and third Tuesdays of each month, so please keep an ear and an eye out for them. And go back and check out ones you've missed. So thanks, everybody, and have a great rest of your day.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Heaping Spoonful. On behalf of all of us at Benny Keith Foods, Mid-South Division, please know how much we love connecting you with the legends of the culinary scene and their unique stories. I look forward to the next time we can offer you another Heaping Spoonful.